morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. I'm Reverend Ned Wight, the interim senior minister here at the congregation, serving with the Reverend Jennifer Brower and the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore. Delighted to have you all here. Today we have as worship assistants a dynamic duo of Betty and Bob Nuxall. So already, you've got your fans already lined up. This is great. We invite you to UU Cafe immediately following the service in the social hall. And if you are a first-time visitor, please stop by the new member desk, the reception desk in the front, and get a gold card for a free lunch. Who says there ain't no free lunch? There's one here. Today we begin holiday donations for Thanksgiving and Christmas turkeys and chickens in the lobby, and also notice that the non-perishable food supply that we have here for people in need is greatly diminished. So if you can think of including some protein-rich products when you do your shopping and bring them here to replenish our food pantry, that would be most excellent. At 1:30 in the ballroom, a little Shakespeare festival, intergenerational and fully participatory, sponsored by the Music and Arts Committee, I believe. And 1 o'clock in the Art Gallery, the second prospective member orientation with the Reverend Jennifer Brower. On Wednesday of this week at 7:30 in room 15, our interdependent web, Care for the Earth with Gail, Colin, and me. That will be a really interesting presentation and discussion. We invite you to that. And on Thursday, the second of our discussions of being white allies in the Black Lives Matter movement, focusing on white supremacy. Next Sunday, But What of Thomas Potter? A window into our Universalist history with the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore. And I do not see Olive Jordan here today. Is she here? Well, just to acknowledge that she celebrated this last week a landmark 100th birthday. So those of you who are at Hadley House, please let her know that we thought of her and wished her many happy returns on her 100th birthday. And had she been here, we would have sung to her, and if the next time we see her, we may sing anyway. Because for a 100th birthday, you have at least a year to celebrate that, I think. I think that's the end of our announcement, so I invite you to greet one another in a spirit of welcome and friendliness.
opening words are from UU Minister Manish Mishra Marzetti. Nothing is static. The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solidity we often love and seek is an illusion. The crumbling dust of the desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the eroding coastline of tidal shores, all are changing. Committees dissolve or are created. Leaders retire or step away. Ministers come and go. Bylaws are amended. New experiences lead to new truths, which foster evolution. The natural course of life always pushing us toward greater understandings of what it means to be human. Everything about our existence points towards change, flexibility, and dynamic recreation. And it's hard, because change involves loss. Can we hold the losses well, while not holding ourselves back? The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake. Nothing is static. Our chalice lighting words are by Dag Hammarskjöld. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back. Please rise and body your spirit to join together in singing hymn 145 as Tranquil Streams, hymn number 145 in the gray hymnal.
Please remain standing for our words and song of affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, this do we affirm and covenant with each other.
freely have we received of gifts that minister to our needs in body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our congregation and its wide concerns a portion of that bounty. I invite the ushers to come forward to receive this morning's offering.
Our reading is A Letter to the People of the Future by John Cummins. My distant children, you will look back on us with astonishment at the truths that stared us in the face and which we did not see. You will look with wonder at the bright toys we created and used only for the rape of the planet and each other. It will seem strange beyond believing that we reached for the stars and did not know the simplest principles of living well together. But know this also, you of the future, you with your libraries and fountains, you in your star cities, know that even in our slumbers, we dreamed. In our fumbling, shadowed search for mistaken glories, even in our clumsy cruelties, it was for you we dreamed. Beneath the piled up centuries, below the lost and ruined rubble of our striving, it was you who lay safe, enfolded in the womb of our dreaming. You, the first cause of all our daring. Even now it brings comfort to know that it shall one day be as the wise among us have foretold. In that far age, the chrysalis of time, it will be your source of pride that your ancestors, born into a universe without justice or mercy, bethought themselves of justice and mercy and put them there. Remember us for this.
If you have joys and milestones to celebrate, and/or sorrows or losses to mourn, I invite you now to come forward to either of the candle boxes to light candles marking these realities of our lives.
Let us enter into a period of meditation and prayer. God of all people, all faiths, and all doubts, be present here in our midst as we consider our mission as a UU congregation on Long Island, our purpose and our priorities, conflicting aspirations, competing values, and sometimes cantankerous personalities. God of all people, all faiths, and all doubts, be present here at this time of change and transition, when we must have the courage to make decisions, knowing we never have all the facts we need. There is always an element of uncertainty that not one of us has all the answers. God of all people, all faiths, and all doubts, be present here in our midst as we remember those who are coping with illness and with loss. We remember especially Dominic Adinolfi and Julia Carroll as they mourn the death of a dear and close friend, Frank Gadler, and others whom we recall now in the silence of our hearts. God of all people, all faiths, and all doubts, be present here in our midst to inspire us to be humble, compassionate, and forgiving, so that this congregation can model the civility and mutual care that we long to experience in our ever-evolving congregation, our struggling nation, and our interdependent world. So may it be. Shalom. Blessed be, Insha'Allah. Aho. Shanti. Amen.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change.
This congregation gets A+ for clapping on the offbeats. This is not a skill that every Unitarian Universalist congregation has. This one has it. Congratulations. It's fabulous. In 1980, William Bridges published a book called Transitions, where he put forth a book about change, and not just about change, but about the process of going through a transition and how difficult that is for us as human beings. There are three parts to this. There's the ending that we have to deal with. There's a new beginning that we have to deal with. And then there is this thing in the middle, which he labeled the neutral zone. We in this congregation are in this neutral zone now. And there's lots of a chance for anxiety about an uncertain future. If we like the experience that we're having at the congregation now, we want to hold on to that. I just got a message this week after a program I led, and it said, "What are we going to do without your leadership?" While at first blush, this question might seem personally flattering, it's more complicated. Because from my perspective, the short answer to that is, you are a smart, committed group of principled, bright, creative people. You've got an abundance of great ideas. You've got lots of good leaders. And you're going to figure it out together what your future might look like and determine how to get there. Of course, endings can fill us with anxiety. They require us to acknowledge that change is going to happen and that we may experience a sense of loss. When we're confronted with an ending, it may seem hard to celebrate with gratitude what we appreciate most about the past, and or make note of what we want to preserve in the future. It's definitely challenging to let go of what we know and what we like, to prepare the way for exciting new possibilities that we may not even be able to imagine at this point. Endings inevitably bring loss, and loss makes us grieve. Of course, new beginnings can also provoke a different sort of anxiety. What is our future going to look like? Who's going to decide that? This is especially true in an institution with congregational polity and democratic decision-making such as ours, because we have to decide on our future together, and that can seem daunting and perhaps a little scary. The challenge of the neutral zone, where we find ourselves just now, is to honor our grief, honor our anxieties about the future, yet still own our power and capacity to move forward together, sketching out what challenges and opportunities we'd like our congregation to tackle. It's particularly relevant for this congregation, which has such extraordinary assets. And not just talking about money, although our extraordinary financial assets do make it possible for us to think and dream big. They expand the notion of what might be realistic for us as we envision our future. In this neutral zone, I'd like this morning to propose some big ideas to consider as possibilities, to ponder, to discuss, maybe to reject, maybe to reshape, maybe to tackle, possibly to develop as integral parts of your mission as a congregation in the second third of the 20th century and beyond. I'm tying these big ideas to existing assets of UUCSR. At a retreat, which I called actually an advance yesterday, I thought retreat was too retrospective and we wanted to look forward. At our board advance yesterday, each member of your board of trustees put on Post-its what they considered to be some of the non-financial assets of this congregation. The Post-its covered 5 large sheets of paper, and they're on the wall of the social hall at UU Cafe for you to look at today. They included, as assets, the following: commitment to UU ideals and principles, people with varied interests, different skills, sexual orientations, ages, professional backgrounds, and talents, exceptional staff, a 3-person ministry team, community of caring and like-minded people, energy, enthusiasm, programs, RE programs and volunteers, property and spacious building, beautiful grounds, and ample parking. Community outreach and activism, commitment to social justice, philanthropic leadership, Hadley House, music, art. It's a very long list. This is great news. Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock has an enormous number of assets upon which to build. In our UU congregation's decisions about our mission, of course, what difference we hope to make in the world, belong to you, the members. Ultimately, you decide the destination and course the congregation takes. The ministerial leaders you call or hire help you follow that course and reach those goals. But if you have some ideas of what your priorities are, you can be sure to look out for and bring on board leaders with interests, skills, and passions that complement your own and help you realize your goals. So my purpose this morning is not to tell anybody what to do. Not that if I tell people what to do, it makes all that much difference anyway, but rather it is to model how you yourselves might build on your assets, to outline a mission for 2019 and beyond that catches fire in your collective imagination and simultaneously helps you clarify specific skills or perspectives you'll be looking for in new ministerial leadership. What are some of the ways we might want the UU congregation of Shelter Rock to express UU values in the years and decades ahead? And I invite us to take a long view. In 1853, our forebear Theodore Parker, 19th century Unitarian minister and abolitionist said, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eyes reach only a little way. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can define it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice. So this is the original source of Martin Luther King's quote that the arc of the universe is long and bends toward justice. He picked that up from our Unitarian tradition. This theological conviction emboldened Parker to oppose slavery when it was not at all clear that slavery was an institution that his countrymen would ever abandon, voluntarily or under duress. So taking Parker's long view, this morning I offer 5 big ideas to prime the pump of your imagination about mission-worthy priorities for UUCSR to consider. I link them with existing assets and describe them as ministries because I think that's what mission-based programs of this congregation need to be. The first, the asset is our beautiful grounds. The ministry is one of ethical stewardship of our land in the 21st century. Last month, I had the pleasure of attending a workshop at the Sisters of St. Joseph property in Brentwood. They have 212 acres. In 2015, they adopted a land ethic statement to guide them in using their land responsibly and sustainably as a sacred trust for future generations. They decided it was not enough just to enjoy the natural beauty of the land. They needed to actively manage it and use it according to agreed upon ethical principles. For them, that has meant installing a 1 megawatt solar array, which is enormous, organic farming, experimental septic systems, water conservation gardens, establishing a land trust. And I began to think about UUCSR and its 100 acres and thought that responsible, sustainable practices of land, water, and energy use are going to become more and more important in the years ahead. Suppose we actively managed our 100 acres under our own set of land use principles. Suppose we instituted demonstration projects for sustainability, for ecological education for children and adults, for protecting our aquifer. We could partner with the Sisters of St. Joseph who have considerable wisdom and experience in this arena. So the first proposed mission priority, ministry for ethical stewardship of our land in the 21st century. Second asset, spacious building and caring community. Both of those assets, a special ministry to seniors. More than one member of the congregation has approached the ministry team with concerns about our growing population of seniors within the congregation, living at Hadley House or elsewhere. Some concerns have been about arresting cognitive decline. Some have been about mitigating loneliness and retaining a sense of purpose in life. Some have been about coping with physical limitations. We have a fair amount of underutilized space in our complex. Suppose we were to partner with community organizations that have expertise in programming for seniors to create an array of services for members of our congregation and the wider community to address some of these concerns. Suppose we engage some of our very capable seniors in designing and volunteering for these programs. There is an obvious need and the potential of utilizing 2 of our major assets, buildings and caring community, to meet this need seems promising. Special ministry to seniors. Third, building on our commitment to UU ideals and community outreach, a ministry of restorative justice. We're experiencing a crisis in our national criminal justice system that's interwoven with racial inequity, corporate profiteering from incarceration, and systemic damage to families and children and communities. We're also facing a chronic problem in our own congregation because we don't have adequate ways of managing interpersonal conflicts and incidents where relationships are damaged and the damage persists for years. Suppose we drew upon UU principles and theology to develop model programs and strategies of restorative justice as an alternative to the systems of retributive justice, of punishment and isolation that dominate our larger culture. Could we not deal more effectively with our history, both conflict within and outside the congregation, through restorative justice? A ministry of restorative justice. Fourth, building on our assets of commitment to UU ideals, community outreach, social justice, and spacious buildings, a ministry of racial equity and inclusion. Racial Justice Task Force of the Social Justice Committee is actively beginning to deepen relationship with communities of color on Long Island. I recently had an inquiry from one of these groups about the possibility of utilizing our religious education wing to house an intentionally interracial demonstration pre-K program. I have no idea if it is feasible or desirable or would have widespread support within the congregation. But it's demonstrated that when you reach out to forge relationships, opportunities may present themselves that are congruent with our principles and values and consistent with our commitment to positive social change on Long Island, one of the most segregated areas in the country. Might we significantly expand our commitment to racial equity and inclusion on Long Island through a ministry of racial equity and inclusion? And finally, commitment to UU ideals and community outreach as our assets, a ministry of solidarity and partnership with other Unitarian Universalists. We already have strong relationships with leaders at the UUA or other UU institutions like the UU United Nations Office, the Service Committee, and 2 theological schools, Meadville Lombard and Starr King School for the Ministry. These relationships are both institutional through the philanthropic leadership of the VEACH program and personal through one-on-one relationships with VEACH staff, our ministers, and lay leaders. We also have a relationship with 10 other UU congregations here on Long Island through the Long Island Area Council, or LIAC. Some in our congregation have long expressed concern about our fellow UU congregations. Today, only 3 of the 11 have full-time ministers. All have rich histories in their communities. How might we deepen and broaden our partnership in ways that strengthen the UU presence throughout Long Island? How might we ensure that there's a powerful UU web and social media presence for UUs across the island? How might we pool and leverage resources to ensure that Unitarian Universalist outreach covers both Nassau and Suffolk counties? In the days ahead, we expect that there will be continuing challenges to our UU principles and values. They will persist and grow nationally, regionally, and locally. How can we ensure that our Unitarian Universalist voices and values are heard in the public square here on Long Island? A ministry of solidarity and partnership with other UUs. Now, obviously, this is by no means an exhaustive list. We need to develop ways of identifying and considering together these and other mission possibilities. And we need to ask ourselves, why is this a mission priority? What in our theology calls us to embrace this mission work? Is this work that we are uniquely called to undertake because of who or where we are? Does this matter enough to a significant proportion of our members? What assets do we have that we can build upon? What community partners can we work with? What makes us believe we can make real progress in this mission area? What difference will this make, short-term, mid-term, long-term? Does the prospect of embracing this mission generate excitement about what's possible? It seems to me that this is a good use of our time in the neutral zone. There's no pressure to make quick decisions, but to sketch out future possibilities that generate congregational excitement and buy-in. Can help you as you look forward for new leadership help you to figure out to what kind of coaching and inspiration you're looking for in new leaders. I want us to look forward with enthusiasm and excitement to the future, to believe that by directing our attention now to areas of possible congregation focus and deeper engagement, we can unleash some creative energy to move in exciting new directions. Our mission is bigger than one person, than one transition, than one member's hopes and dreams about our future. It's going to take all of us to spell out our mission and put our oars in the water to help us move forward. Yes, we face endings. Yes, we're on the threshold of new beginnings. Let's use this time in the neutral zone to make clearer to ourselves, to the wider world, to potential new ministerial leaders, what some of the areas are in which we'd like to enlist their help to make a difference in this congregation and in the world that our congregation exists to serve. So may it always be. Shalom. Blessed be, inshallah. Aho Shanti. Amen. And in this spirit, let us join in singing hymn number 121. 121, We'll Build the Land, in the great hymnal.
Our closing words are by Sarah Morris Campbell. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown.